Hello, my name is Christina Sprinkle, and I'm coming to you from the living room of a loving, safe, caring home that my grandchildren were abruptly yanked from on March 31st, 2026. I have gone to the authorities, I have prayed, I have stayed quiet, and now nobody will listen. I'm asking you, America, to listen. I believe my daughter is being mentally abused, and I believe I have the proof, but I need someone to listen to me. The issue is the authorities I know to go to all say there's nothing they can do, or they won't listen to me. As I said, no one will listen, so now I'm asking everybody to listen. I'm okay if you judge me. I'm okay if this blows up my entire life. As long as someone gets my daughter and my grandbabies the help they need, and for my daughter to realize her mistakes. I'm a very flawed Christian, mother, and wife. I put my children before God and my husband. I cuss, I shout, and I am not the light of Jesus that He wants me to be. But please remember, we cannot change what we do not acknowledge. I allowed abuse of my grandbabies to happen in my house. From January to the week before March 31st, I had been working a lot of hours. I'm not saying that, it's not an excuse, it's an explanation on how we got where we are, how I was able to turn a blind eye. I'm not compiling any of this to show what I've done or what my daughter has done. I simply compiled this by nature. I am by design a bone and receipt collector. And now with the mind of Christ, with the Holy Spirit who has recalled to my memory events, I would like to show you guys my proof on how I have love for my daughter and grandchildren, and how it was twisted and made evil, and how I know that is mental abuse. I'm going to apologize in advance on how I'm talking. I've never done this before. I've never been on TikTok. I've never posted something public like this before. I'm going to do what I know to do. I'm a business person that sees a problem and addresses it. I document my facts on a defect and I present it. If people won't listen to the defect, I go higher up. I go higher up until at least the defect is acknowledged. I don't fix the defect. I don't know how to fix the defect. I know how to identify the defects, and I know how to help if someone wants it. First of all, I would like to define what abuse, neglect, and threat means. To me, and Google, abuse is the improper, harmful, or cruel treatment of a person, animal, or thing, often to exploit power and control. It involves actions that cause physical, emotional, or physiological injury, such as violence, neglect, manipulation, and coercion. Abuse can occur in relationships, workplaces, or institutions, and also refers to misuse, substance, or privileges. Neglect is the failure to provide proper care, attention, or due diligence to a person, task, or object, often resulting in harm or deterioration. It implies a disregard and careless omission of responsibilities. It applies to both personal neglect of children or health and physical neglect. A threat is a stated intent to inflict pain, injury, or damage, and or person, thing regarded as a source of danger. It implies impending harm, such as threat of war or threat of safety. Common examples include bullying, blackmail, or safety hazards, while synonyms include menace, intimidation, and risk. I do not believe I have committed any of these, but I do believe that Maureen Johns, my daughter's abuser's son's mother, has. Let me start why. I had to file a DCF report against my daughter and her abuser. I'm going to go into how we got here. But first, I'm going to tell you, here's the Cliff Notes on why I know this is abuse. My grandbabies experienced extreme neglect under my house. They were put to bedtime from 6:30 p.m. to 8 a.m. and they were probably about 9 p.m. by the time they went to sleep. The babies were often awake from 5 a.m. to after 8 a.m. before my daughter would get out of bed and take care of them. No diapers were changed or bottles given during the middle of the night during that 13.5 hours each day. That led to chronic diaper rashes. Their nap time was 12:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Their behavior had gotten to the point where there was also multiple times out each day in their crib. Over 16 and a half hours, they were in their crib. Major milestones were not met around speech, but DCF is investigating that. It is the crib abuse that I want to talk about more than anything. When I went to my daughter's abuser on Wednesday, I believe it was Wednesday of this week, it might have been Tuesday, I'll get into the dates. His response when I said that you lay your babies to rot was that I had no proof. So this, America, is my proof. It is also my proof on why I believe that my daughter is being mentally abused. My daughter's abuser, Jesse Christopher Halter, may have never laid a hand on her, but he has manipulated her to believe that Papa and Grammy are evil and he is good, and that is not true. So I come to you, America, with my proof. I'm going to show you the proof of how the twins were neglected, and I'm going to especially show you my proof on how I know my daughter was mentally abused. First, I need to let you know, I am not a perfect parent. I don't even like being a parent because I was meant to be a Grammy. Anytime I talk about money in this, I'm not bragging. I'm just showing what level of diabolical thinking Jesse Halter and Danielle Halter must have. I'm a Libra. You can call me Big Worm, because playing with my money is like playing with my emotions. We don't make friends, we make money. So you have to understand my love language is gift giving. Most of you know the golden rule, but do you know what it says before that? Matthew 7:11-12 says, if you then, though you are evil, and I am evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law of the prophets, the law and the prophets. I also want to remind everybody that that same chapter, Matthew 7:15 through 20 says, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly They're ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits, you will know them. My hope at the end of this is that someone with authority will know my fruit, will know that I am good. Someone with authority will know that Maureen Johns and her son, Jesse Christopher Halter, are evil and they produce evil fruit. I'm going to tell you, and you can be able to see, rage texts that I sent starting on Friday after the babies were abruptly taken out of this home. My emails, my calls, how I called the ATF hotline, or gave a tip online, not called, sorry. The payroll stubs where I paid my daughter $800 a week to be the best parent she could be. How as my assistant, her number one responsibility was to take care of my grandbabies. The only other responsibility she had was to wash our clothes, change my bed sheets once a week, do our dishes, make sure my Keurig had water and my coffee K-pods were stocked, and fill my daily Sunday to Saturday pill container. Yeah, imagine how I felt when I had to tell DCF about that. I don't think people will believe me, so now I have my proof. Just in payroll stubs, I paid my daughter over $98,400. That doesn't include the additional taxes and unemployment that I had to pay. I'm not stating any of this to brag. I'm actually embarrassed by it all. I'm going to talk about how, when my daughter's abuser moved in, how he was not required to cook, contrary to what he might tell everybody. We did ask, though, that he communicate if he wasn't going to actually do it. You can go on the website that I'll talk about, and you'll see that I paid for vacations in Bradenton in July of 2020, St. Augustine in June of 2020 for my daughter's 21st birthday, the Disney vacation for the twins, the week in Miami in 2020 for the dinner at Versace Mansion, how I gave up my dream to stay at Versace Mansion, and how Papa and I gave up so many other dreams because we were investing in our daughter and her family. The entire 2024 holiday, we rented an Airbnb in Kissimmee so that my entire family could be under one roof. We had recently a vacation to Daytona Beach in October 2025 and went to St. Augustine so that the grandbabies could see the lights in December of this last year. All of which I financially took care of because I take care of mine, and I'm a Libra. I'm going to show you and talk about how for the twins' first Christmas in 2023, I took my grandbabies and their grandparents to Gaylord along with their parents. How I took my daughter's abuser's mother and I paid for the rooms and I paid for all the meals except for one. How I paid for a Disney membership that my daughter and her abuser barely used. I paid for most food. I paid for pretty much all the toys, the baby's clothing. I gave them a $45,000 Tahoe. When I would go out of town, I would leave money for Happy Meals. I would cover the cost of the holiday meals they would cook. I would give them $200 cash each time. My husband, the grandbaby's papa, did all outside work. yet he was called lazy. We'll talk about that soon. How I bought Jesse kitchen items to show him I was thinking about him. Oh, I'm sorry, my daughter's abuser. Kitchen items to show him I was thinking about him. How I even bought a witchcraft magic puzzle to show him I know his main interests and I support him. First, I want to talk about my daughter and my relationship prior to her abuser entering her breathing, or as Jessica Simpson, the air she breathes, says. The week before my daughter started dating Jesse, she told her Sears work friends at a restaurant that they were all at that I was her best friend. In middle school, when my husband and her would fight, it got a little bad to where one day I was with her in a vehicle and I'd gone to the movies and I told her, I choose you. That if it's so bad with my husband, her stepdad, Matthew, that I would leave him because I choose her. I'm not saying it's right. I sinned. I put my kids above God even. And I'm suffering the consequences of my actions. But I want to talk about her and I spent such quality alone time. We went to NBA basketball games. We went to concerts. We'd sit around watching TV. Just good quality, uninterrupted mother and daughter time where she could have come to me about anything. Now let's talk about what happened when my daughter's abuser, Jesse Christopher Halter, entered our lives. I will admit, for the first few months, things were good. They stayed at our house and his mother's back and forth. Danny was about to start college again, and I had asked her that if she would please stay home here at her house 4 to 5 days a week so that she could focus on school. I told her that her abuser was more than welcome to move in, but I wanted her to focus on school. That started the very first major blow up. They came over, said they were moving. Jesse's anger showed for the very first time. I will admit, I maybe didn't handle it so well. I told her she wasn't taking any of the stuff that I bought. I didn't know what to do. Once again, I felt my love language was being abused. So then I told them they needed to leave because Jesse was yelling. I told him he needed to leave again. When he did not, I picked up my phone and I dialed 911. As he was leaving, I did not know that. He was coming towards me. I pushed the additional one. As he turned the corner to leave, I hung up. The Lake County Sheriff Department called me back and I said them everything was good, and they said they were coming out. Prior to them getting here, I proceeded to try to push every single button that I could find on Jesse to try to get him to hit me. I'm not going to lie. At one point, I took the car that I gave my daughter back from her that day. I eventually made amends. I gave her, signed over the car, and I had to sit at I had to sit at Sonny's barbecue in Eustis and apologize to the both of them on how I treated Jesse. Yep, I did that so I could have a relationship with my daughter. Now let's talk about how my daughter abused me and how she didn't talk to me for 2 years. From January 2021 to January 2023, my daughter refused to talk to me. She refused to give me any real explanation as to why. I have always put her and her brother first, but it was never enough. I have so many family photos of true, godly love all my proof. She says that it was all because of how I didn't like how she didn't help me during Christmas, on Christmas Day when they were all here, like she always has. I don't know. But I do want you to know that on Monday, April 6th of this week, I found my daughter's suicide note that was dated December 30th, 2020. It was a week later that she stopped talking to me for 2 years. She left her abuser a suicide note about how everything was her fault and how he was the greatest ever created. My daughter didn't leave me a note. Her grandpa even tried to warn her because he has actually mentored women who allow men to abuse them. She didn't listen. In her defense, her dad, William Donnie Blevins of Marion, Ohio, stopped talking to her when she decided to hyphenate her name on Father's Day in 2019. Donnie stopped being a great dad. In the words of Lizzo, why men great till they gotta be great? That was also after he had given her the silent treatment for most of 2018, and how we got a call on April 12th of 2019, the weekend of birthday, saying he was threatening to kill himself. I have the proof where his girlfriend called. She's never called to say, let's make it right between the two, but she called to say he was going to kill himself. That can be found on my website. Her daddy issues, caused by her father's neglect, allowed Jesse, her abuser, to walk into her life. To Donnie Blevins, I begged you on November 11th, 2021, to come down. Here's what I said, and this will be on proof also. Is there any chance you could come down here during your next shutdown? You and I could try going over in person to see Danielle and work things out. You and I can apologize to her for anything we have done to cause her pain. Donnie, our baby girl is out there in this cruel world thinking she's all grown and doesn't need us. We need to try to make her see that we love her and want her around. Here is your response. She made it clear that she doesn't want me in her life. So if you have her number, give it to me, and I will try to contact her again. I'm not wasting my time going down there and get nowhere with her. And besides that, I did nothing wrong. This all started when you took her to Tennessee, then moved to Florida. I picked the wrong man to be my daughter's father. Now I would like to talk to you about when my daughter returned home, pregnant with twins. We didn't get to be at their wedding. We were only contacted in January of 2023 when they needed something. There was no way they were going to do it with twins on their own. I always said God sent Jettybug because he knew she would try to do it on her own. God sent me Jettybug. At times after the twins were born, when we would watch them overnight, Papa and I were both so exhausted. We still had to work the next day. I didn't know how they were going to make it. So we prayed, both of us separately, and we both believed that I was to hire Danny. Fast forward, not even a month later, she came to me and asked if they could move in. We both separately prayed, and we both believed we were to let Danny and her family move in. Shortly after she moved in, she asked me why I didn't come to save her when she lived over at her abuser's mother's house, Maureen Johns. She cried and told me it was so awful over there. Yet she just moved her babies into that house. My husband and I did everything from before January 2023, or from before January 2024, to when they moved in, to make them feel that this was a home. We tried to love Jesse as our son. Now I need to talk to you about how I turned a blind eye. This was the events, some of the events that have occurred prior to March 31st, 2026. I was praying in my office one day, and I felt led to replace my mattress. I had not been getting very much sleep. So I ordered a new mattress, and I told my husband and my daughter that when it came in, I wanted to do some deep cleaning in my room. Basically empty my room, dust, do the walls, just get it all nice and cleaned up. When my husband went to remove the nightstand that's right by our bathroom where I sleep, my dresser, end of my backside of my nightstand's dresser, was covered in mold. My husband looked in our bathroom, had such black mold that it started infiltrating itself into the house, and it was coming for me. You're spiritual. Take that for what you want. But when my husband started the bathroom remodel project, he started to notice things. He started to notice that even when the twins were up in the safety of the living room playroom that we made for them, they were alone. My daughter was spending more and more time laying up, being in the room next to her lazy bastard husband and neglecting my grandbabies. My husband brought it to my attention, and I said it was probably just timing. I believe the good in my daughter. I'd also started noticing that my daughter's abuser's temper was starting to grow. He's gained a lot of weight. I personally know exactly how that leads to your personal, how you feel about yourself. But I want to make sure everyone knows I only wanted to be a Grammy. I didn't want anything to do with parenting. If they were parenting, I'd leave the room. I didn't probably change 5 diapers since the day they were born. That's a parent's job, not a Grammy. Anytime someone would bring something to my attention, in love, especially their papa, I would say that is my daughter's marriage and that we need to stay out of it. Yes, Jesse needed to get a job, but I'm supporting my daughter and he is her. And so I'm going to do what I can to help my daughter. If she accepts it, then so do we. It's what I told everybody who listened, my friends. I was and I'm doing for my daughter and her entire family. Once, my Arkansas bestie told me that she would eventually get tired of being the one that got up while the lazy bastard laid up and let her do all the work. My daughter, she never got tired of it. My husband would bring to me concerns on what I now know was neglect and maybe abuse. But I would tell him, just because they don't parent like us doesn't make it abuse. It's just bad parenting, maybe. I asked that if they needed to spank, that they do it away from me. So let's talk about that for a minute. I'm not a fan of spanking, but I've used it. But I also think it should be the last resort. But I'm also going to tell all of you guys, and I mean no offense, white Christian males might be more offended than anybody. Religious males might be offended the most. But, newsflash, Proverbs 13:24, whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent in disciplining him. That does not mean to beat your child. I'll pause, let you digest. Maybe you might want to mute that or pause this. Let it sink in a little bit. Don't believe me? You see in red? Find me one video or one photo of a shepherd beating its sheep. He takes the rod and he gently guides. Jesus never forced anyone to do anything. Jesus washed feet. How many husbands and fathers out there have washed their wives and their children's feet? Why not? It's biblical. For anyone wanting to know more about how I was raised, religion was used to control me. A well-meaning religious male tried to control me in who I was by the Bible. Want to know more? Go on Amazon and watch Shiny Happy People. Episode 2. Yeah, I was right back at my house. Now, let's get back to why I'm asking for your help. I meant no offense, but I do ask you, ponder what I've had to say on that. My husband, their papa, was told by my daughter's fat, lazy abuser that my husband was lazy. Recently, their papa and my daughter's abuser went somewhere where Jesse proceeded to tell my husband that he was mooching off of me. A bastard who has had no job, has no life skills, called my husband lazy. And my husband didn't go to jail. Do you want to know why? Because my husband is the head of this house. My husband, my daughter's stepdad, her father, her dad, the one that's been there for her since she was 5 years old. My son's father, the greatest thing I ever gave my son, knows how to love. Because 1 Corinthians 13:4-8 says, love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. Notice it didn't say it does not get angry. It says it's not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrongs. Anyone who knows my husband knows that's so true. Thank you, Jesus. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. During the course of this, my husband wanted to leave me. I allowed them to mistreat me or mistreat him. The day recently he wanted to leave me, God told him not to quit me. Because I felt like my husband, their papa, wasn't doing enough. I've apologized to him, and I've sought God's forgiveness. I let a fat, lazy, abusive bastard come into my castle and disrespect my king. When I would come to my husband, I would tell him I was drowning. And he would tell me, honey, all I got to do is address the situation in that bedroom. And I would yell at him, and I would tell him that you're just against Jesse, that he's just a hurt little boy, that he needs us. And this entire time, I was a drowning victim, metaphorically, that was fighting my Savior. And the entire time, all I needed to do was stand up. Little John, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, that was me. If my husband hadn't listened to God, he had every right to leave me. The devil would have won. My daughter's abuser would have won. So let's talk about the things that I ignored. Sorry guys, this is hard for me. My daughter would tell Jedrick she didn't even want him. She only wanted one child. When they went to their one-year pediatrician appointment, where doctors noticed the twins were behind on their milestones, the doctors requested that they come back. Instead, when Danny and Jesse came home, they just exploded and said they weren't taking their kids back to that doctor. To the best of my knowledge, they never brought them back to the twins back to the doctor. DCF is taking care of that one, though. They told Disney that Jedrick had autism so that they could use their stroller. They told me this. I remained quiet, silent. Their vehicle kept breaking down. When Papa, my daughter's father, offered to go inside to the dealership to help because of the warranty issue, Jesse, my daughter's abuser, talked down to Papa and said he was in the wrong. His way was wrong. However, they ended up forfeiting voluntarily their vehicle, and as far as I know, they're still making payments on it. That vehicle that they bought at CarMax, Two Better CarMax, left them and my grandbabies on the side of the road over and over. They maxed out our AAA. Their papa, that was called lazy, would have to come get them every single time. The vehicle that they had owned, a little white Jeep Cherokee or something, my daughter's abuser, his fat ass, couldn't even fit in it. That is why he is fat bastard. And that's not name calling, that's factual. I went to them and I asked them if they wanted to buy the Tahoe from me. They could make small payments, but they said they couldn't afford it. I understood. I know what it's like to be at that situation in life, so I ended up just giving it to them, as I needed to make sure my babies were safe. All three of them. they haven't taken care of that Tahoe. Currently, the oil needs changed. The anti-lock brake system, and my husband has brought that to them for 3 months, needs repaired. The tire air pressure all need looked at. Instead of taking care of their responsibilities, they spend their money on $500 Versace sunglasses, magic cards. They spend no money on their babies outside of necessities. For Christmas this year, it was the first time they bought them a Christmas present. It was a kitchen set. It's adorable. They left it behind too, though. They not one single time bought my husband, my daughter's father, the grandbaby's papa, a single present. Not anything to tell them they were thinking of him. Not for Father's Day, Christmas, or his birthday. Since they moved out abruptly, and I'll talk about that more, my husband has said he believes that my daughter's abuser must have a mental condition. I'm no expert. I don't know. I told him, I don't think so. I think he's just plain evil and diabolical. And he says, well, how else could he have said all the things that he has said, especially to him? And I said, it's because I allowed him to think he could come in here and disrespect my king. Now, let's talk about the crib. The reason why I am asking everybody to help me hold my daughter and my ex-son-in-law in my heart accountable for criminal neglect and endangerment. In January of 2026, my granddaughter started climbing out of her crib. And keep in mind, I covered the amount of hours they were in the crib. My daughter kept having to put Zofia back in her crib over and over. One time she got out of her crib and she came to our room. Another time she got out of her crib and I just found her sitting on the couch crying softly. My daughter did research. She told me she did. This is why I believe it's criminal and why I believe criminal investigators need to pull her cell phone to see her search history. Because every place I researched this week said lower to the ground or on the ground in toddler beds, even recommending shortening the amount of time they were in bed. They did that for a little bit, but then they reverted back and Zofia started climbing out of the crib again. Jesse Christopher Halter's answer to this was to go to the hardware store and buy plywood and build a crib wall up bigger on January 13th, 2016. Their papa tried to tell Jesse this was not going to work and that it would be unsafe, and even tried to recommend other things, but was told to butt out. These were Jesse's kids. We have outside cameras showing Jesse bringing home the wood, Jesse cutting it and putting it together but the authorities won't look at it. Zofia was still able to climb up, but the drop was now even farther. But she still continued to jump over and over. Her legs were full of bruises, especially her upper thighs. When I tried to bring to my daughter's attention that this setup was not safe, it was causing more issues, Jessie started to yell and once again reminded us we have no say over parenting. Their answer was to put the dressers on both sides of the bed. Please remember, not one single time did we research this. We did not. We are guilty of turning a blind eye in ignorance, but we are guilty. I want to tell you about the worst thing that I know happened. My daughter told me this. I didn't see it happen. I want to believe in my Grammy heart that had I seen this, I would have snatched them up. I don't know. Maybe it would have been violent. I just don't know. I don't know, you guys. But my daughter told me that she heard a boom in their room and that she went in there and Zofia was laying in a wipeout position. My daughter used the term wipeout. She said she laid there for a minute. She laughed and said, I bet she'll never do that again. It's something that Donald Blevins would say. And guess what, you guys? She never did do it again. About 4 weeks ago, Jedrick started doing the same thing, climbing out of his crib. Once my daughter told me that she went into their room and found Jedrick sitting on the floor beside his sister's crib. My grandson, he's been protecting his sister since the day they were conceived. So then, my daughter and her abuser, they switched their beds around, so Jedrick was now in the crib with the high wall. However, my Jettybug, he is a strong man. He pushed the one dresser away, so he was able to climb down. Once that happened, Jessie's answer to that was to put screws into the crib and the dresser. However, that didn't hold my grandson. I didn't know until they left. But what I did know is that I saw scratches, random scratches, starting to appear on his legs and his arm. When I asked my daughter where those were coming from, because we didn't have pets anymore. My precious Rocky had passed away on November 25th of 2025. She said he got him from his sister. When the extra high crib walls and dressers stopped working on Jedrick, their abuser, Jessie, resulted to going into their room and yelling at them. When the yelling stopped working, they started spanking. They would even take my grandson's Curious George pillow in his blankets from him. My grandson has used blankets to comfort himself since he was 2 weeks old. It can be 100 degrees, and he loves a good blanket. It soothes him. He's a creature of habit. After they abruptly left on Tuesday, March 31st, 12 days ago, I went into my grandbaby's room. I don't go in there often. And I actually saw the crib screws sticking out. I finally saw this was not just bad parenting or different parenting. This was abuse and neglect. Then I researched how much time a toddler should be in their crib. There was no mistaking that this was abuse and neglect. So I ask, I understand, and I'll go into it some more. DCF can't do anything. But what department can help me? If DCF can't do anything, since the danger is over, who can hold them responsible? Since they had to know it was wrong. If it's criminal, can't you go and access Danny's cell phone to show what research she had to have done? To show everything that she had to have said to lower to the ground? Less time in bed? All the things I saw online said that. This shouldn't require DCF. The authorities, the Lake County Sheriff Department, they should be doing their job. And once confirmed, the parents knew they were putting their children in danger. They should be the ones calling DCF. I'm going to go over a few other things to set the stage for March 31st. I went through a period in January where I told my daughter that I wanted to move. I wanted to move to the largest retirement community, the Villages in Florida. Save your jokes. That was like my grandparents' generation. Regardless, Papa and I, we wanted to live in an active retirement golf cart community. Once again, remember, I didn't want to be a parent. I didn't even want to live with my grandbabies. I wanted to be able to call them up and have them come over, and I wanted them to, every moment with me, to just be joy. However, my husband and I were fighting all the time. I would tell my daughter it was about her brother, but it wasn't. It was about them. Me and him, my husband and I, a lot of times. It was more because he kept bringing concerns to me, especially about Jesse. Once again, I just thought my husband was calling out his laziness and lack of manhood. I thought it was my job to protect Jesse. He just needed to be taught. However, I did start noticing things. They would mute the Alexa speaker. Jesse appeared to be more than just on weed. Even a couple times when they would come home, just the two of them from being out, my daughter looked like she was on something. But believing the good in her, I just thought she was tired. I'm going to cut this and come back, and we're going to talk about March 31st.